Modernist photography in the United States. Photography has not always been accepted as an art form. After the introduction of the Kodak Brownie camera by George Eastman in the late 1880s, the medium of photography was transformed from a specialized trade to an activity that anyone, even women and children, could do. In a snap, the modern snapshot was born, and amateur photographers were everywhere. They even began congregating in clubs to share their new, exciting creation. Kodak's motto, "You push the button, we do the rest," showcased the simplicity of the new modern photographic process, delivering mass production at a low cost, a quintessential industrial innovation. The public loved it, but the new easy version of photography created even more challenges for photographers who were actively pursuing the use of photography as an art form. Alfred Stieglitz is an early figure who played an integral role in fostering a critical discourse about art photography in the United States. He did this in a variety of ways. First, through his own photography, often reflecting his trips to Europe and the new modern American city landscape in New York. Photography was Stieglitz's self-proclaimed passion, and he stepped far outside the role of a photographer to promote it as modern art. In New York in 1902, Stieglitz single-handedly took on the creation and publication of Camera Work, a high-quality journal dedicated to the work of contemporary art photographers. Over the next 15 years, Stieglitz produced regular issues of Camera Work. Inside an issue of Camera Work, a reader would find literary works, including statements from Stieglitz himself, poems written by prominent literary figures like Gertrude Stein, and essays about art and photography. Also included, of course, were actual photographs, but not just any photographs, work by photographers hand-selected by Stieglitz for inclusion in Camera Work, including photographs that he took. In addition to photographers like Edward Steichen, Frank Eugene, Gertrude Käsebier, Annie Brigman, and Clarence White. The pictorialist photographers showcased between the pages of Camera Work were exploring methods to raise photography's status to an art form, and those methods included making photographs that often look more like paintings. The reproductions of the images were created with the highest of standards. Rather than printing the images on regular photographic paper, Stieglitz had photogravures printed of them and hand-tipped those photogravure prints into the pages of each Camera Work issue. A photogravure is a high-quality intaglio print-making process that produces rich, warm images with amazing tonal ranges printed on thick paper. Arguably, each copy of Camera Work was a work of art in and of itself, right down to its hand-bound seams. In addition to being a photographer and producing Camera Work, Stieglitz established a gallery, known early on as the Little Galleries, and reopened it in 1908 under the new name, 291. 291 became a tremendous catalyst for the development of art photography in the United States. While Camera Work told the story about art photography, 291 showed the story. Stieglitz curated and promoted exhibitions of pictorialist photographers like Gertrude Käsebier and Clarence White, who were showcased in Camera Work. Within the walls of 291, intellectuals and artists congregated to discuss cutting-edge photographic work of the day. But photographs weren't the only thing that adorned the walls of 291. Edward Steichen, a prominent photographer and friend of Stieglitz, spent much of the early years of the decade in Europe, where he became familiar with the work of avant-garde artists that were pushing the boundaries and redefining painting and sculpture in Europe. Stieglitz saw an opportunity and began to arrange small collections of work by European artists for the first time on American soil, right there in 291. Some of the featured work included drawings by Auguste Rodin, sculptures by Brancusi, various works by Pablo Picasso, Georges Braque, and Henri Matisse. Together, camera work in 291 fostered a convergence of photography and new European avant-garde art, which was brand new to Americans. Juxtaposing photography and bewildering modern art was just the right blend to get photography out of the shadows of the Kodak craze. But around 1917, the direction of photography had changed. The final issue of Camera Work showcased the work of a new emerging artist named Paul Strand. And Strand's aesthetic was drastically different from the misty, fairy tale-like images created by the pictorialists. Strand's photographs were direct. Rather than adopting the gum bichromate printing process, which was more painterly, Strand preferred platinum prints, which produced an exquisitely rich range of tones, from black to white. Strand's photography emphasized the innate qualities of the photographic medium, rather than disguising them under the veil of painterly qualities as the pictorialists did. With the context and dialogue set through the work of Alfred Stieglitz, Paul Strand played a pivotal role in ushering a truly photographic style, referred to today as straight photography. According to Strand himself, quote, "The decision as to when to photograph, the actual click of the shutter, is partly controlled from the outside by the flow of life, but it also comes from the mind and the heart of the artist. The photograph is his vision of the world and expresses, however subtly, his values and convictions. I like to photograph people who have strength and dignity in their faces. Whatever life has done to them, it hasn't destroyed them. I gravitate towards people like that." End quote. This photograph here by Paul Strand stands out to me personally as one of the most memorable images I've ever seen. Strand's work influenced a new generation of artists. One particular group, known as F64, emerged in Oakland, California. The small group of 7 artists included many of the most well-known American 20th century photographers. Each in their own way took the aesthetic of Strand's straight photography and developed their own unique body of work that focused on particular subjects and conveyed an authentic artistic style in and of their own. Some explored the formal qualities of the finished print, hinging at times on abstraction, and others the camera's ability to capture the raw beauty of nature, while others conjure up the early whispers of documentary photography by capturing the compelling social and economic contradictions that had a tendency to be rendered invisible in the blossoming suburbs of 20th century America.